Hi, and welcome to another episode of Freshwaves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. Today we're talking with Frank DiGenova, and we're talking about his new book. And the book has quite an interesting, catchy title. It's called Why You're Still Single or in a Shitty Relationship. Now, I'm sure the CRTC is going to let us say the word shitty. If it's not, then we'll just go bleep while you're in a bleep relationship. Good morning, Frank, and welcome to Fresh Waves.
Good morning, Ben. I'm just laughing as you were saying the title, and good to talk to you. It's funny because I want to just add my bleep is an asterisk over the I in the word shitty.
Oh, okay. Why didn't you just say, why are you still single or in a terrible relationship?
But the original title was going to be in a toxic relationship, but that kind of stereotyped, kind of pigeonholed people. Like, not everybody's in a toxic relationship. Some people are just in a challenging one. Shitty to me is kind of a broad, not the best relationship. I mean, this book is basically obviously for single people and for people not in ideal relationships, and it also is good for those that are in a good relationship that just want to fine tune it. So shitty, I thought was a good word.
Okay. So your book is not necessarily about leaving a relationship that's not serving you well. It also is about trying to fix a relationship that may not be serving you well. It's
actually about fixing it. It's a pro. Yeah. So I came with that title just to kind of, shock value. My other books were very, very, right to the point and nicey nice. This one's like, I want to just stir the pot a little bit. But the book does, I don't know how it comes across to the general masses, but it's a pro relationship book and a pro, don't be single anymore. There's a lot of good things for actually solid relationships for communication and understanding men and women.
Okay, so give us an overview about what the book is about.
Well, the book is basically in 3 parts. It is, as I say, I offer the problem, and then the reaction to the problem, and then the solution. So the first part of the book, I'm just going to open up the book, and I'm going to look at the table of contents if I can find them again. And so basically, the beginning talks about relationships and the whole twin flame and that, and then the chapters 2 and 3 is about why you're still single, meaning the reader, and why I was single. So it's almost an autobiography of what I did wrong and what I've researched about how the reasons why other people are single. And then I get into how society, the narratives of just the media is kind of supporting freedom, not having the Constitution, kind of the nuclear families under attack. And I feel that it's cavalier. Relationships and marriages seem so cavalier these days. And then I go into very briefly about our childhood upbringing and how it affects our bonding styles. I don't really talk about bonding styles. And then I have characteristics of women, so help women understand themselves better, but this is for the guys. And then the solution part, the last few chapters, talks about the dynamics between masculine and feminine energy and how to communicate between each other. So that's basically a book in a nutshell.
Wow, that's a lot to cover. I mean, any one of those chapters could be an entire book in itself.
Absolutely. And that's what was one of the challenges, is to how much do I put in? Because I kind of rewrote this book a few times, and I had traumatic experiences, bonding styles, a whole bunch of stuff. And I think this is not for this book. This is for something else. So yeah, I try to get a little bit the kitchen sink in there too, but not totally the kitchen sink.
Okay. Now, you have other books. Is this book a continuation? Are you into a trio situation now, or do you think this book is a standalone?
It's a standalone. I actually reiterate some of my personal story from my first book, and so the readers don't have to go back and read the first one. But I just do that for accountability and for how I was introduced to relationships and how I was molded. So each book has its standalone, but they all work together. This book here is not as spiritual as the first two. It's more of like, resembles the title. Why you're still single. It's not like, how to find a divine feminine or masculine in your spirit. It's nothing like that. It's very, very kind of street kind of level stuff. Okay.
Now, what inspired you to write this book?
Why I was single and in shitty relationships. I really believe that anyone who writes a book, it's kind of a mirroring or a reflection of what's the person's needs to learn or what they're going through. Mm-hmm. Even I believe authors, when they create characters or they use, characters within their own life or in their own kind of unconscious. So basically, it's what not to do, and also what to do under a new lens.
Do you want to elaborate on that a bit?
Yes, absolutely. So, I thought, when I was younger, my certain belief systems on relationships was how it was. And, I did my best and I thought, okay, why is not my best not good enough? So I was struggling with a lot of, kind of self-worth stuff and confidence. And, so basically what happened was, now I have a different lens. I've learned so much more by sharing my story and by learning. I'm looking at the reasons why through a more of a kind of a greater vantage point. So I know exactly why I was single or in crappy relationships. I learned about masculine and feminine communication. I've also learned about masculine and feminine energy, which is very, very important and the basis of the book.
Okay. Masculine and feminine energy.
Yes.
I've always been under the impression that women can have masculine energy as well as their feminine energy, and men can have feminine energy as well as their masculine energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have both. And there's a lot of polarity coaches out there, which I'm gonna pigeonhole the kind of genre, which my book is not totally that because it's a lot grander than that. A lot of polarity coaches say that men have to be in their masculine and women have to be in their feminine for a relationship to work. Well, newsflash, we have both. And there is, Carl Jung spoke a lot about the anima and the animus, the masculine feminine energies in within us and how one's suppressed. So, yeah, I mean, going back to your first question, I was in my feminine energy growing up because I had dominant women in my life growing up, and I kind of to compensate, I went into the feminine energy. So it was a reverse polarity there, and I talk about that extensively in the book. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Does that clarify things a little bit for you?
No, keep going.
Okay. So biologically, men and women have different biologies, different hormones, different processes going on, and that affects our moods, like our moods. When little boys were told not to cry, and women are okay to hug their friends, and guys, you're weak if you cry. So that's where the split comes, or when we have those masculine tendencies or feminine tendencies, where men hold their emotions close to the vest and women express them. So what's happening is that a lot of we're inverting. We have men behaving more effeminate and women becoming more empowered and boss women. And I think that is a big issue why a lot of people are finding hard to find love and connection and attraction, because you look at a magnet, you have a positive and a negative. You need a positive and a negative to create an electromagnetic attraction or attraction. When you have two positives and two negatives, there is no attraction. So that's what I'm referring to with masculine and feminine energy in relationships.
But if you need a bit of both and I just don't know what the conflict would be. Is it if two masculine energies come head to head, then they're not going to get along, or two feminine energies come head to head, they're not going to get along? There has to be one or the other?
They can get along, but the thing is, to create sexual attraction, you need to have that polarization of both. Otherwise, it just becomes like, so when you have a man and a woman together, or lesbian or gay, like, it doesn't matter. Energy is energy. When you have lots of friend zoning happening in that sense, like there's no tension there. There's no sexual tension between. They can get along better than a couple that's has polarized polarities.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what I'm talking about, masculine and feminine, is the actual sexual attraction.
Okay.
And the thing is, a man needs to have feminine energy to understand how a woman feels. If he's just in his masculine, he's going to be this kind of, as they say, the toxic masculinity. He has no empathy, and that's not good. And a woman has to have some masculine traits too, to be assertive and to create some boundaries and to, have the will to do things, which is a masculine. But when they become excessive or inverted, is when the problems start. Personally, professionally, I think it's who's that guy who wrote the books, Man and Venus, Mars? I think John Gray, I believe it is. Mm-hmm. He talks about when women get stressed, they lose their estrogen and they get more testosterone. And when men get stressed, they lose their testosterone and become more estrogen dominant. And that puts stress. And you have cortisol going into your body with the hormones. And we just get off. We're not we're not home. We're kind of in foreign territory. And we're stressed out, and we're not. Our health suffers. Like, I mean, yeah. When a lot of single mothers now, or single women they have to be the man and the woman, right? They have to be the mother and the father. And that's a great toll on women and their health. And we remedy those by drinking wine or doing dissociative, distractive behaviors. So, yeah. It's so much I want to talk about, Bren, and it's like I don't want to just seem like I'm going all over the place. So
okay, well, let's focus in there. It's interesting because what I hear you saying is that you need a little bit of both, but women should still be women and men should still be men or masculine, and it's hard to define what that is right now, especially in our society. I think It used to be that for the last maybe 50 or 60 years with the women's movements that have been going on in society, that women were having a hard time figuring out what their role really was and where they fit in society, and society needed to change to accommodate women in a way that was fair and equitable. But now we're in a point where, the pendulum always swings very far to one side before it comes back down into the middle. And I think we're approaching the middle now with the women's issues. Where I think we're having the problem now is with where the men fit in, now that the women are sort of becoming more aware of who they are, what their expectations are, and what they want out of a relationship.
Absolutely.
So now we've got a man who has been brought up by... I'm not saying all men, but some men who have been brought up in a very, what we would term, traditional way, where, the mother does everything for them. The guy leaves home and doesn't even know how to boil an egg. And then he's looking for that mother figure in his partner, and she may not be there anymore. Yeah.
Good point. Now, I think the pendulum has swung. I think it's past the middle, and now men, the shoe's on the other foot. Now men don't know their role. Mm-hmm. They don't know what to do because they used to be the providers, the hunters and gatherers. Now it's kind of inverted. Now the women are the hunters, and the men are becoming more the gatherers. Going back to the traditional. When I say traditional, I don't mean that. Let's say the man is looking for his mom in a relationship, because that is a big part of the thing that I write in the book too. That being a masculine man is not looking for mommy, because that's the problem with a lot of relationships. What I discuss in the book as well is that when you have a healthy relationship, you need to have two adults present in the relationship. Unfortunately, what we have a parent-child dynamic in the relationship, or we have two children, which is even worse. And a lot of it's so. Part of the process of integrating yourself is becoming emotionally mature and having the individualization away from the mommy and daddy and becoming your own adult. And so you have that coming. Like men should, a devoted man should do a lot more than they're doing. It's not about having a slave in the kitchen, not at all. And I don't talk about that in the book at all. I believe in equality. Now, equality doesn't mean the same. So, I mean, I get into the whole gender, the pay gender thing too. I talk about that. And that's why this book comes with a trigger warning, because I go into areas where not many want to venture in, because they're trigger points. And I really believe that inequality. So if you're going to ask me if I align with feminism, I would say I'm more of a classic feminist than the neo-feminism, which is like, more rights, like destroy the man, put them down. They're oppressors. They're toxic masculinity. That's like misogynistic on the other side. Misandry, I think it's what it's called. But yeah, so I believe that we have to recalibrate, because it's not going away. Pandora's box is open. Women are empowered. They're not going to just say, hey, we're going to go back into the kitchen and do nothing. So we have to learn to navigate through these new paradigms.
Well, look at the most popular cooking shows on TV. They're not done by women.
Oh God!
Strong male figures.
Right. You're talking to an Italian here, where it's like, they say the men were always the better cooks, right? So, I mean, that's genderizing, which shouldn't be it either, right?
No, it shouldn't be. Whoever wants to do the cooking and whoever loves to do the cooking should be doing it. And if one's tired, then the other one takes over, and both should know how. I always figure that's part of the problem in this transitional period that we're going through, is the fact that if the parents haven't trained the people who are in the relationship to be self-sufficient individuals, if one is completely dependent on the other, it's a hard relationship, and it always will be. Yes.
Now, there you go. So when you have, and when I talk to women about having equality, so now more women are working in the workforce. So not only do they have to, not have to, but be the householders and do the domestic chores, they have a full-time job. They're going to be the taxi service to their children to go to, karate or dance or whatever. So, as the gender in the workforce kind of equalizes, men have less on their plates. Women have 3 times the workload, and that's the whole how things are it's tipping, and it's crazy. So we're forced to learn. I've been living in my home. I don't have the cleaning fairy to do my toilets. I don't have the dust fairy to do that, or my laundry. I'm doing that myself. So more and more people are becoming independent, I think. But you have those kids that are living in mommy's basement playing video games. And I said kids. I didn't say male or female, but there's more boys getting high in their mom's basement or their dad's basement and playing video games, and they haven't grown up yet.
Yeah, I always figured, I have 4 kids, and I always thought that it was better to give them some lessons in life when they were children than to have them learn those lessons when they're adults and things really matter, when they need to be paying rent and they're going to lose their apartment or their home if they're not stepping up to the plate. So, there's a lot we can talk about societally with what's going on with relationships, with social media and the part that it plays, with Hollywood that seems to have invaded all of our heads in some, I think, really monstrous ways. I mean, people hold up and glorify these wonderful relationships. They forget that marriage for love has only been around for maybe 100 years, 200 years. Before that,
not even.
Yeah, people married for status, for family, for wealth, for position. This Hollywood idea of falling in love was only for peasants. They were the only ones that were allowed to love who they were going to marry. And the tragic love stories of the world are
Right.
by and large, about women who fall in love with the man who is the owner of the castle, and she can't marry him because he can't marry below his status,
Right.
and she leaves the house in tears and whatever. That doesn't mean that he still doesn't have relations with her before he goes and destroys her
Right.
completely. However, she is never going to be married to the man of the house, and sometimes in a Disney film she will be, but it's just Hollywood. It doesn't happen
Right.
in real life, or it happens so very rarely that it's not even a statistic. And then, now the love affairs that we glorify and Hollywoodify, and the people having passionate sex all the time, it's just nonsense. It's not reality.
It's not reality.
Just TV or film
Right.
or a story. But people take it to heart. They aspire to be those people. They want to live up to those expectations. And I think relationships on the whole are suffering from it.
Absolutely. And interesting that you said that. I have a few chapters talking about that exactly. I talk about Hollywood. I talk about the media. I talk about what's happening on a social level. I have a sub chapter called Hollywood. Like all those points that you've brought up, I cover it, and it's because it's a big part of it. Is you have the princess programming from the early Disney. Like men don't have a chance to be Prince Charming. the way women are kind of not groomed in it with such a way. I don't think that's a negative word, but to expect a man to be Prince Charming, and what women get are guys in chinked armor with that their sword is lost, and they have dented helmets, and and it's the expectation and the trivializing of sex and the cheating. I have a thing on cheating as well, and it's like it's and then you look at and I don't know if you noticed this, and this is probably maybe I'm looking at through a different lens, but you look at fathers in sitcoms or cartoons. I don't want to say any cartoon shows or any sitcoms, but they make the men look like bumbling idiots and incompetent. You have the cartoon dads and the sitcom dads. Even in commercials, the wife is always, belittling the man. So you have these certain narratives and commands that happen on a subtle level that we don't even know. A lot of empowerment, false. You even have a lot of cheating happening in, like, you watch any movie or show, someone's always cheating with somebody else. Mm-hmm. So they're normalizing, and it's like, our parents and their parents, it seems like they married for life, for better or for worse.
Yeah, but I think maybe there was just as much cheating going on back in that generation's time. We just didn't talk about it, and you didn't find out about it. And if it was discovered, it certainly wasn't glorified. I mean, a lot of it was swept under the carpet and hush-hush within the family, and you don't speak about it. Now it's like the dirty laundry's aired out for everyone to see, and it's neighborhood gossip, and even the kids know all about it. And
they make shows about it.
Yeah, I heard a little kid, I'm talking a 10-year-old, I heard him say that his mother was easy.
Oh my God, 10 years old.
What? What are you talking about? She kind of likes all men.
Oh my goodness.
I don't even know what to say to that. Okay. Let's change the subject now.
I know, right? I mean, it's part of the slang. Like, I put this in this book there, 304s. They call them 304s for the streets. Now, if you look at 304 and you look at an alphabetical look, it looks like HOOE. Ho, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's in the language. And it's like, it's just so cavalier. Okay, let's say way back you had the guy cheating. He would cheat on women, or he would go to the brothel. I believe in women's intuition. I think when a woman suspects something, she's bang on, because I believe in women's intuition. She wouldn't say anything. It would be kind of denied, because if they broke up, God forbid, in those days, and the woman in that social structure didn't have a man to provide for her, she'd be on the streets. She'd be struggling financially. So it's like, it's okay. As long as he loves me, as long as he brings home the money, he's good to our kids, I'll let it slide. Now it's like, I have a perfect husband, but something's missing. I want a divorce. It's gone to that extreme now.
Yeah.
Right? And do we just give up too fast and we have too much choice? I talk about that as well. Like I wish I can like write 5 books and just put in one compendium, because there's so much to say.
Yeah, there is so much to say. All right, we're going to take a little break now. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Today, we're talking with Frank DiGenova. And we're talking about his new book, Why You're Still Single or in a Shitty Relationship. We'll be right back. This is Fresh Waves. Hi, this is Bren, host of Fresh Waves. Remember, if you'd like to hear this podcast again or any more of the Fresh Waves broadcasts and podcasts, you can go to our YouTube channel, freshwaves.ca, and you can hear my dog in the background whining. But you can also hear all of the Fresh Waves shows right there on our YouTube channel, Fresh Waves Radio. We'd love to have you subscribe, so hit that subscribe button. And now let's get back to the show. Hi, this is Bren, host of Fresh Waves. This morning we are speaking with Frank DiGenova, and we're talking about his new book about relationships. We won't say it again. It's Why You're Still Single or in a Bad Relationship. And we're going to start at the beginning because, Frank, when we first started doing this half an hour ago, I asked you what inspired you to do this book, and you kind of skirted around it. And I don't want to be the paparazzi or anything, but I do want to know what inspired you to write this book. It seems like a mammoth task to sit down and try and figure out why people are in bad relationships.
Yes, busted. I like that because you're making me have accountability, which I believe is good to have in any aspect of your life. So, in a blunt answer to your question, what inspired me is, and I kind of briefly touched on it. By I think what we're going through ourselves is we write about. So, I really believe that in the environment that we have today, there's always, divorce rates are huge. People are in relationships. A lot of them just stay for financial reasons. I thought, you know what? I want to share what I've learned and reach as many people as possible. Because I'm a type of guy that if I learn something in the spiritual sense or a life lesson, I want to share it. I mean, I have a podcast myself. I have books. So I feel that when I learn something, it is my duty to just share it with others. And I feel that this topic is so rampant today. Like, I just can't believe what's at 50 plus 60% of marriages end in divorce. And then out of those, the remaining, who's really happy fully? It's not just staying there for financial reasons or for the kids or for lifestyle or whatever. So I really wanted to go right to the jugular and go right to the nerves of that and share what I've learned. My intent is to help people learn to have better relationships and to have the relationships, that they always desired.
Okay. Is it too personal for me to ask if you are in a relationship right now?
I'm dating right now. And it's interesting that what I've learned now, and I see my old patterns coming up. There's reasons why I stayed single, which I talk about too. I mean, I was in a marriage, not long marriage, but 10 years plus. And I was in a common law relationship, and I financially took a hit. So I'm very cautious to get into a serious relationship myself. So I'm dating now, and I'm enjoying learning about myself, learning about other people on a deeper level. So I can't say that I'm in a relationship, a solid relationship, like an exclusive one. So no, I'm not. But I am in relationships.
Are you a Hollywood statistic?
No, I am a Hollywood statistic when it comes to the buying the homes and giving them away type of thing. But no, I'm just I'm dating. And I think when I say relationships in that way is that we have relationships with our kids, with our coworkers, with our friends, and romantically. So, yeah, I'm dating.
Yeah, my husband's favorite joke is, I'm never getting married again. I'm just going to find someone I don't like and buy them a house.
Yep. I think that was Willie Nelson or Rod Stewart or, I don't know. It's a funny one.
Yeah, it is, but it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but in the same sense, it's kind of sad, I think. I mean, I really do think it's kind of sad.
And yes, and I was talking with someone that we both know mutually, and we were talking, and I said, men these days are afraid to get in a relationship, and I think I'm going to kind of maybe share that. Maybe that's what I have a little bit of caution about. See, we're 80% of women statistically leave the marriage, and out of those that are more educated who have university degrees, it goes up to 90%.
Yikes!
It's crazy. So, and guys, they can lose a lot. They lose time with their kids. Financially, they lose. The courts. I'm not saying they only favor the woman, but it's still, the pendulum is still a little bit on that side there, and men have a lot to lose going into marriage and relationships. So a lot of them choose not to. And maybe I reflect that a little bit because I've lost so much in the past. So I'm happy being single in my home and just doing what I got to do and meet people and just have a non-serious union with someone right now at this point in my life. Do I want a solid relationship? I do. That's my end goal.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that you'll be able to find it if your attitude is one of, yeah, well, whatever, just for now?
No. And not that cavalier with that too. Like I'm really mindful of who I let. I mean, as you know, I'm in the spiritual side of things. I really believe that when you entangle yourself energetically with someone that's not resonating into a kind of a positive, you absorb some of those. So I'm very protective of who I let in as well.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm not cavalier about that. Yeah, so to me, it's sacred.
Okay, well, if it's sacred, and did you ever come up with the answer of why people are single and why they're in bad relationships? What is the answer? Why are they?
We're become too picky. We have a laundry list of excuses, of our fears, insecurities, self-worth issues. But I believe that we expect to shop outside of our price range. Like we think we have the opportunity, especially when we're younger, we have more options. When we're older, we have less options, but we still believe that we have the option to choose higher value. When higher value is only like 10% of the population. There's a chapter that I have in my book where it's I talk about the sexual economy, how 80% 20% of the guys are having sex with 80% of the women. So the coveted, I call them chads, that they the kind of the alpha males, not alpha males, but kind of the higher, the 6-pack, the 6 feet, the 3 sixes, the 6-figure income, and they're all coveted. So
that's funny. I've never heard that before.
What, the 666?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Well, I'll put another 6 in there, but it's below the belt, so we'll leave that alone.
We'll leave that alone.
There's not a lot of men that possesses the 3 sixes or the 4 sixes in that case.
Well, I would go on the other side of that scale too and say that the women with the old measurements that the guys used to quote, there was even a song that said 362-436. Those don't apply anymore either. And to try and find that woman, I think that's one of the things that drives the plastic surgery industry right now, is these unrealistic expectations of what people look like. I mean, obviously in the movies and in Hollywood, they do a cattle call, they call it, or whatever, and they have a casting call, and all these people come in, and of the 500 people, one guy gets the part, because there were really only 3 out of the 500 that they could even begin to look at, and those are the exception to the rule. They're not the average guy. I actually really enjoy watching British television these days, because the people and the characters are real. You look at them and you think, wow, like she could be my next door neighbor. She's not fancy. She's not fussy. She's not perfect. She hasn't had tons of plastic surgery. She's just the lady who lives next door, and he's just the guy who lives next door.
Right.
And then you turn to more of an American style network like Suits or something like that, and it's like every single person is body beautiful. I don't know about you, Frank, but I've been to many, many offices, even law offices in downtown Toronto, and I have never seen people dressed like that, and I've never seen an office full of body beautifuls.
There you go. So you just answered the question, and I have a subtitle in that called what you said: unrealistic expectations. That's the bottom line. Our expectations they're it's too much, and it's like, we're presented with these beautiful people, and that's what I say, that we all think that we can have one of them. And personally, getting back to, if the more work a woman has done cosmetically, the more I stay away, because it's you're trying to present a certain kind of look. It's like, I like the natural. I like no makeup on a woman personally. I believe less makeup. I like the short nails. I like the natural woman personally. Now, I mean, that changed. And when I was more feminine, when I was younger, I liked women that were, I wouldn't say butcher, but when I was younger, like, Christy McNichols for the older listener, and the tomboy. I loved the tomboy. It was just, and then when I was more resonating with my masculine side of myself, I liked the more of the kind of like the long nails, the lipstick, and the long hair, but now it's like, I look at energy, as I said before. It's just, I have to have a connection, both physically, mentally, and intellectually. But if you're just going to go and offer a visual, and I'm not interested, and I think a lot of people are not, because it's got to be more to it. It's not just about the physical, and looks go away, they don't last.
Well, yeah, but they morph and they turn into something else. And I think that if you're really in tune with the person instead of with just the outer facade, then, like, I know some people who are genuinely bitchy and nasty, and that comes through in their looks. And I don't see their looks as attractive, because I see that negative energy that comes oozing out of every pore. And there are other people who, when you look at them through the lens of an artist painting the ultimate human being, and how high their forehead is and how far apart their eyes are and everything, they are far from perfect, but they're genuinely nice, wonderful people. And that beautiful energy comes through, and you find them attractive, male or female. They're just beautiful people.
Absolutely. And there's a song, she ain't pretty, she just looks that way.
Oh, love that line.
Right? I love it. And it's like, that's for men too. And I talk about looking at a rose, and part of my book where it says, like, you look at a rose, and it's just so beautiful. It just sits there, and it just kind of, you're in love with this rose. It's beautiful. But the minute you start inspecting it, looking at its lines, the age spots, the petals, you start zeroing in on certain characteristics, and the beauty of the rose is gone. It's just, going back to what you said, it's the smile, it's the personality, it's everything else that shows beauty. But once you start analyzing and categorizing and measuring, the beauty is gone. Yeah.
Or it diminishes somehow. It needs to be a complete package. So with Hollywood being what it is today, and all these people who are put together so nicely, and with all of us having Photoshop at our fingertips, and what does this do to the common relationship?
We've gotten so far removed. It's almost like everything has to be perfect now, and it's like, no, it's just...
And we're such imperfect people. And our imperfections are what make us so special and unique and nice. My Aunt Marg used to say that she hated the advent of braces for the most part, because there was a little boy in her class, and she thought he was so cute because he had that one crooked front tooth that just made him look so sassy. And he was just that personality. And she said if he had had straight teeth, he wouldn't have looked half as good.
I've got a big smile on my face then, because I prefer women with little crooked teeth. If a woman has perfect teeth, I'm not attracted. I get turned off. It's really weird.
You're a hairdresser. You see beautiful women who are so immaculately put together all the time. Maybe you're just desensitized.
Maybe, or she ain't pretty. She just looks that way.
Yeah, that's true, right?
I mean, going back to the natural and the non kind of contrived, trying to fight with artistic ratios and proportions is like, nothing's perfect. I mean, if you go and look in the mirror, if you're listening to this right now, go look in the mirror and look at your face, and you'll notice that your right eye is closer to your nose, bridge of your nose, than your left eye is. And when you know this, it's being a hairdresser. The eye, where that little cavity comes in with the nose, it's closer to your nose than the left eye. That's the first thing we learn in hairdressing school. No one's perfect.
Yeah.
So, if you have someone with the perfect eyes, they look like a robot or some kind of freak. And a lot of these procedures cosmetically are making everything too symmetrical.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, I think we could draw the same conclusion looking at relationships. Relationships are so diverse, and what seems to one person as a horrible situation that they would never want to be involved in works for that couple, and they're totally into each other and they're having a grand time. So leave them alone if they don't fit into your mold, and I would say, if you're looking for love, don't go looking for the perfect relationship that you see on television. Go and find something that works for you.
Right. And the thing is, I think, getting back to what you were saying in the beginning, Bren, was, now that we have our needs being taken care of, we have, men and women are kind of have our needs met, and we kind of don't need each other. That leaves room now for spiritual expansion, other interests, where finding your soulmate. Before it was like business. You take care of the house and kids. I come home and bring the money, and it was kind of a business arrangement. But now that we have a choice, more opportunity to do inner growth and that. Now we see relationships. Now we're looking for a partner to be everyone. Like, in the past, relationships served the purpose, but now it's like we want our best friend, we want our foodie partner, we want a travel buddy, we want our kind of everybody in one, all in one. We want the whole village now in one person, and we demand that. And that's another big part of the reason why we're still single, because people are still single. It's because they want this magic all-in-one person to satiate every need that someone has. Relationships that are not supposed to offer that.
Yeah, I hear you. I know I know a couple who was married for 64 years.
64 years?
Yeah, they were married for 64 years. And during that time, her husband went off to World War II, and he was gone for 2 years. Didn't see each other. They didn't know whether their letters were getting to each other, but they were apart for 2 years.
Okay.
When he got back, they decided that they would never be apart again. So they started a business together, and they worked this business together where they were together every single day. He left for work before her, but she would, clean up after breakfast and bring in lunch, and the two of them would work together, he in his office, she in hers. And every year they took a 2-week vacation away from each other. She would go with her girlfriend somewhere, and he would go with the guys somewhere. And people used to comment all the time and say, well, their relationship isn't very healthy. They can't even go on vacation together. And I got to know them really well, and I thought they had one of the best, most loving relationships I'd ever seen in my life. And it was based on love, respect, dignity. They didn't go on these separate vacations because they hated each other. They went so that they could preserve each other.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, when you say it that way, yes, it's healthy not to be 24/7. Now, if they were the typical, men and women have separate jobs, different work hours, and they were doing the all girls and all boys trips more often, and they didn't have that 24/7, that is, I would say, would be challenging to a relationship. But if you're stuck to the hip, you need to have the space. And that's one of the things too, is where, I don't want to be in a relationship where I got accused one time of, not being, caring enough because I wasn't texting every day. And then I was dating someone, one says I was never texting at all. I'm like, you can never win. So it's like, you got to find a dynamic that works with your other partner. But if you're with 24/7, no, you have to have space. I agree with that fully.
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a discussion at the very beginning of a relationship of what the expectations are, and then stay in your lane.
Mm-hmm.
I like that kind of
Stay in your lane.
Statement of staying in your lane.
Right.
You know, don't jump in and do it for someone if they're capable of doing it themselves. And I know a relationship, a friend of mine, her relationship fell apart, and in her husband's effort to hang on to the relationship and keep it going, you know, all of a sudden he started doing everything that she'd been asking him for 15 years to do, and he never got around to doing it. And she said he thought that he was enamoring himself to me, and in fact I saw that he was quite capable of doing everything I asked him to do all the time, and he chose not to do it. So when he was demonstrating his abilities, I was looking at him with such contempt, and she said as soon as that contempt jumps in there, the relationship is over.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing too. Is so you're saying that he didn't want to do what she was telling him to do?
Right. He didn't want, you know, she'd ask him to help with the dishes because she was putting the kids to bed, or she'd ask him to do something in the house, and he would just, nah, that's not my thing, or just, I'm too busy, and he'd go and do some hobby of his that had really nothing to do with maintaining the household. And she asked him all the time, what have you done for the common good of the family this week? And probably the answer was zero, except for get a job and pay some bills.
Right. I cover that, actually, part of the communication. There's a way to ask a guy for him to do anything for you. And there's a way to ask a guy or tell a guy that he will shut off and do nothing for you.
What's the secret?
So, well, you got to read the book, but I'll also give you a little hint. Men don't want to be told what to do. I know this is probably our delicate egos, whatever, but I mean, when a man, he'll do anything for the household, for the kids, it's in our nature. We want to serve. We want to devote. But if we're told to do it, we feel like we have our mother telling us to do things, and we don't feel masculine. We don't feel like a man, and we just don't want to. We want to do it because we chose to do it.
Because the idea just dropped from the sky, and you grabbed it and ran with it. Mm-hmm.
Well, a smart woman will know how to convey that through expressing herself of why it's to be done. So the thing is, a lot of women, they just kind of, men call it complaining, bitching and complaining, or nagging. Mm-hmm. Men don't respond to that whatsoever.
I don't think human beings respond to that in general.
Well, yes, especially men, because I mean, you know, we want to be Superman. We don't want to be told what to do. So I think if a woman presents the problem, as in the man could come save the day, a woman will be surprised what a man could do if he's approached the proper way.
So if she comes across as a damsel in distress, he's more likely to help her out?
In a way, yes. I mean, you know,
that's sad.
It is sad, but that's our wiring. Going back to now, women are making their own money. Women are having, you know, they're CEOs of their own company. Men don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
So we lost the protector. We lost the giving the provision, protection, devotion. We're incompetent now in our eyes, and you know, we gaslight ourselves because we have these desires for the woman to help the damsel in distress, but she's not a damsel in distress anymore. Nope. She's barking out orders. Mm-hmm. So that emasculates us. We don't respond to that. You know, right or wrong, it's our biology. You know, we want to come home with the fresh deer over our shoulders, and you know, oh, you're amazing, you're amazing. If a woman tells a man that he's amazing and encourages him, he'll puff up like a rooster, and he'll feel so important. So you know, you're basically stroking his ego, yes, but that's how he does things. That's how he responds. But if he's told, why don't you do this anymore? He feels like a little boy, incompetent little boy, and he'll shut down. And he loses any motivation to do anything. Sad but true. I mean, that's how it is. And same thing with too. When, for an example, if a woman, so for an example here, okay, let's say you're on a date and the man goes to the girl. He goes, where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go, honey? And he goes, I don't know. Where do you want to go? She's going to lose attraction from him because he's not taking the lead. He's not being in his masculine. If the woman has to make all the decisions all the time, it's not a balanced relationship. You have a depolarized relationship.
Okay.
And that's hard. that's hard for a lot of women to deal with, because like he should see that there's dishes in the sink. He should just do it. We're oblivious because unless the roof is not falling down, men will do things on their own time. Okay, so there's dishes in this thing. It's not a health hazard. It's not a problem. So some women have to have the dishes out of the sink and into the dishwasher, or into the dried and into the cupboards before they'll do anything else. A lot of men will just see it. Oh, okay, that's something I can take care of later, and that's where the conflict starts happening, and that's where you have to communicate with the couples, and then you get back to the expectations. You're in the beginning of the relationship, and you set your expectations. But the thing is, I mean, you could say all you want. There's a joke out there that men are hope that their wives never change when they meet them, that they always do, and women hope the guy changes, and he never does. So there's a disconnect there as well.
Yeah, there's a disconnect there. But, that thing with the dishes, there's sometimes a good reason, because you want the dishwasher on overnight so that you're not using the hydro at the prime time. And you want it done for the morning, and they're already piling up, and they're starting to smell, and they can, there's stuff growing on them that you could have your own little biohazard thing happening in the sink. And I have a very easy solution to that. When he comes into bed at night and he gets all amorous, you say, I'll deal with that later.
So you're weaponizing it back. See?
Yeah, well, if they want to put no importance on that, put no importance on something that means something to them. I mean, that's where relationships go back and forth, right?
Exactly, and that's where it starts deteriorating. Now, the game could be probably on. He wants to watch the game. He'll do the dishes after the game, and if he doesn't, then he's an idiot. Right? So if he wants to sit down and have a beer and watch the game, and there's dishes in the sink, let him watch the game, and he should, on his own volition, say, I'm going to do the dishes because you know what? My wife or my girlfriend works really hard. I want to do this for her. And that's where his provision comes in.
But he should be doing the dishes for himself. He lives in the house as well. That's where the chores and that kind of thing that define us as men and women. I think that's the kind of thing that society needs to get a new grip on, because it's no longer the woman's job to clean the house and clean the kitchen. It still is. Women still do 90% of household chores are done by women. And that has to change, because women are working and contributing to the household as well. So the men have got to, step it up. You know what? I also think it comes right down to starting at the beginning. And we need to raise children these days to fit within the new paradigm. I know of a young man who brought his girlfriend home and presented her to the family, and she was in university, just about to graduate as a vet, and a veterinarian, I mean. And he was so proud of this woman, and she was gorgeous, and she was just so nice and well-educated. And when she left, he said to his dad, what do you think? What do you think? Isn't she great? And his dad said, dump her right now. And he said, what do you mean? And he said, she's far too focused on her career. She'll never take care of you. You want a woman who's going to be there when you get home to take care of you. And he looked at his dad and he said, maybe you did, but that's not where I am. I can take care of myself. I'm not looking for someone to take care of me.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that I can see both sides of that, because I've been on both sides of that. So let's change the narrative on another perspective here. So the guy comes home, he grinds. Let's say, okay, she grinds too, but he's grinding at work. He's, competing against other men, and he's all like, whatever. He comes home. He wants to come home to soft, to gentle. He doesn't want to come home to a strong, career-driven, opinionated woman, because he wants to come home he wants to seek comfort. Everybody wants to land at home and feel safe and comfort. But if he's got to grind with his wife, I mean, that's one extreme response to what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're changing. I mean, yes, gender is more flexible with how we identify and how we act. Our roles are kind of, blurring.
Overlapping.
Overlapping. And it's like, but we still have our biology. We still have our biology that's running us. And when we go against it, we suffer depolarization, we suffer stress, health problems. And I think that man and woman, we both are equally important. We're just different.
Yeah. And I think relationships work well when both people are communicating and really aware of each other. Right? And respectful of each other. It's not just about love. It's not that love that is just the hot and heavy love at the beginning. It's that respect, and that respect will carry them on right to the end of their days. Right.
So there you go. So if going back to respect, if the guy's not doing the dishes and the woman's saying, "Oh, yeah, this is not important either," that's not respecting each other. They're both playing games, both manipulating, both saying, "Okay, whatever." So yeah, we're gonna go back to my last 2 chapters are about communication.
Wow.
That's how I end the book. And yeah. And
well, it sounds like a fascinating book, and I'm so glad that you were able to come on the show today and share some bits and pieces with us. I think you shared enough that it's not a spoiler alert, and that you can read the book, and I think people will get some really interesting perspectives.
Thank you, and I hope that it kind of helps your listener to kind of ask more questions and just challenge the narrative and find solutions with your partner or internally.
Okay. Well, Frank, every time we have you on, it's always a pleasure and it's always very interesting. How do people get your book if they're interested in finding your book?
Anywhere they get books, Kobo, Kindle, Amazon, Indigo, Chapters, anywhere online. Wherever you get your books, I'm there.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you for joining us today, Frank. That's it for Freshwaves, all the time we have. And we'll catch everybody again next week. I hope you have a fabulous day. Be kind to one another. And, think about your relationships. This has been Freshwaves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. See you next week.